Well, good evening and welcome to a special World AIDS Day edition of Queer News Tonight, broadcasting live from the Healing Through Art event at Care Resource here in Miami. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news, broadcasting live and then available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and of course, YouTube and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Thursday, December 1st, 2022. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ plus community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 37 years of experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, let's begin by welcoming anchor FayWhat. She is a radio and television personality and has a popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate and owner of Fays for Her Family. Also, make sure to catch the FayWhat Show, the first LGBTQ morning show, Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern, online or your smart television. And recently, did you hear the big news? Yes. Faye won the SFGN Best of Local Television Personalities for 2022. Congratulations and good evening, Faye.
You like me. You really like me. Hello, folks. So yes, we are coming to you live from a rooftop in downtown Miami. So that is why my hair is a crazy mess, all right? So just excuse that. It might take over your screens at home, but don't worry. It'll be okay.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
I don't see any difference from this crazy mess in yesterday's. Oh, wait. Sorry.
I'm going to continue and try to ignore you now, Ferguson. Let's welcome anchor Victor Diaz-Herman, another person with incredible hair. He is a first-generation Cuban-American advocate, activist, fundraiser, and strategist. He serves as the CEO of Prideline, South Florida's oldest direct services agency for LGBTQ people. He's also COO of Worth International Media Group with exclusive brands such as Recommend and Preview. In the business of creating stylish, engaging, and content-rich media solutions for the global travel and tourism industry for over 50 years. And he's also got this incredible masquerade coming up that I'm going to go to. Good evening, Victor.
Hey, Faye, and congratulations.
Thank you.
You certainly deserve it. As you said, we've got our masquerade ball coming up. It's our 40th anniversary. And tickets are still on sale, so if you want to join us for an amazing evening, please do so by going to pridelinesmasquerade.com and purchasing your tickets today. I hope to see you there.
And Victor, before we move to the next introduction, let's talk about Smart Ride for a moment.
Let's do it.
Smart Ride, I did it for the first time, and when I say I did it, I drove my car between Miami and Key West. That's the way I went. For 165 miles, made many stops, interviewed many of the riders, and Pride Lines was one of the principal beneficiaries. The Smart Ride 19 raised $1 million. Congratulations.
And we're still fundraising.
Yeah, and still fundraising. Tell us a little bit about, the reason I bring it up is Smart Ride is an HIV/AIDS fundraiser.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it in your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ride is a 2-day, 165-mile bicycle ride from Miami to Key West. It takes about 700 people, 500 riders and 200 crew to get everyone safely from the University of Miami to Key West. And it benefits 7 agencies that provide programs and services for people living with or affected by HIV throughout the state of Florida. Pride Lines being the agency in Miami, but we've got AH Monroe in Key West, Compass in Palm Beach. We have Epic Empath on the West Coast. We have Miracle of Love up in Orlando, and I think that covers all of them. Yep. And the great thing is that all of those organizations provide programs and services for people living with or affected by HIV. But then on top of the money we receive from the ride, there's a 10% lifeline. That lifeline is used to grant funds to organizations doing important work to advance to advance HIV policies, to support people in other ways throughout the state, like
Save,
SunServe, yeah, and many great organizations. It happens to also be the second largest HIV/AIDS ride in the country, the largest on the East Coast, and the only one that gives back 100% of all the monies raised by riders and crew members back to the community. And it also allows them to designate where the money goes.
We're going to show quite an extensive special on Smart Ride 19. And the reason is because we're going to partner, Hotspots Happening Out Television Network is going to partner with the Smart Ride in the promotion of 2023's Smart Ride 20. Smart Ride 20 means
big year.
20th anniversary.
I'm going to that
Smart
one.
Ride.
I'm going to that one. Yes, I'm going to hand out water because I am not riding that. No, I'm not. I have no ass, Victor. I have no ass.
I hear
it doesn't matter because you won't feel your ass after a certain point.
Yeah, it's an amazing event. Glenn Weinzimmer
love him.
Anchors at Queer News Tonight frequently. An amazing, amazing program, and we're getting it out. It's World AIDS Day, so we throw out immediately. We're celebrating Smart Ride 19, but we're already talking about Smart Ride 20 because it's the 20th anniversary, and the goal is $2 million.
$2 million in the 20th year.
Quite amazing.
And Al, before I introduce this next host, for anyone that wants to be a part of the Smart Ride, you can ride, you can crew, you can volunteer, and you can donate. Help us reach that $2 million by visiting thesmartride.org.
Yeah.
Again, that's thesmartride.org. And now, let's welcome anchor Dr. Julio Capo, Jr. He is a history professor and the deputy director of the Wilsonian Public Humanities Lab at FIU, or Florida International University. He specializes in the history of race relations and immigration in the United States, as well as LGBTQ+ studies. He is an author of the book Welcome to Fairyland, Queer Miami Before 1940, and curated a new exhibition called Messages from a Pandemic, AIDS Graphic Communication. Good evening, Julio.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm fantastic, sitting next to you.
Aw, same. It's good to be in this space and good to be up
And
here.
let me interrupt again here. Julio, I want to ask you about Wilsonian, and you're the history guy. You're the history person representing us tonight in LGBT. Any broad thoughts about LGBT and World AIDS Day from the standpoint of your eye and viewpoint?
Well, like the exhibition, for example, which is free and like available to everyone. It's the Wilsonian in South Beach has it's one of FIU's museums, has the strongest collection of World AIDS posters from around from like, you know, the Seychelles in Africa to Trinidad and Tobago to France. I mean, you could find the ways that people have communicated pandemics. Like we were really invested in learning during COVID, the early days of COVID, what we stand to learn from HIV/AIDS, right? That is, and there is so much. That is, I mean, how people communicate ideas of community, of risk, of prevention. History has so much to teach us about that. And here locally, if you just check out the Wilsonian on South Beach, it's an incredible collection in, you know, dozens of languages. So it speaks to so many different experiences on a global scale.
Thank you.
Now, let's welcome anchor Paul Thomas. Yes. Currently the chairman of the LGBTQ+ Advisory Committee to the City of Miami Beach, a board member of Miami Beach Pride, on the board of directors for the Point Foundation, and the endorsement committee for SAVE. Goodness. He has over 30 years of experience in the healthcare and education field, specializing in HIV/AIDS treatments, as well as an activist and advocate for marginalized communities. Locally, he works with many of our nonprofits and FQHCs, federally qualified health centers, providing a wide range of services. Hey, Paul.
Good evening.
And
nice
Paul,
to meet you in
wait,
person.
before you jump in, I want to the same prompt to you. You're our health expert tonight on our of our anchors in Queer News Tonight. You're participating. Not only you have long experience of advocacy in healthcare.
30 years.
Yeah,
30.
yeah.
He's only 33.
Yeah.
Imagine.
For
Thank
HIV
you for that.
and AIDS. You're participating in the program tonight for World AIDS Day. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to do.
Yeah, we're going to I'm going to read a poem that I wrote, and then I'm going to read a poem in remembrance of. We'd like everyone to think of a person that they know who's been affected by HIV or maybe passed, for those of us of a certain age, right? And just to shout that name out loud, you know, celebration.
And Paul, why is World AIDS Day
we're
important?
remembering them. They haven't been forgotten. They passed away, but they're not forgotten.
Yeah.
And that we're still learning these lessons, like Julio said, and we're still marching forward.
As you can tell, we have, I feel humbled to be here tonight because I'm the least qualified person on this anchoring the show tonight for this special World AIDS
I'm smarter than
Day. Much smarter, and much more colorful too. We thank everyone in participating and joining us in this special broadcast for World AIDS Day at Care Resource.
Okay, so we are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Thursday, December 1st, 2022.
Well, we begin our World AIDS Day broadcast by queering up breaking news. The DHS warns LGBTQ plus events and gathering places as terror threat targets.
NBC News, the Department of Homeland Security is now warning of possible threats to the LGBTQ plus community, to Jewish and migrant communities coming from violent extremists inside the United States. According to one senior official, Americans motivated by violent ideologies pose, and I'm quoting here, a persistent and lethal threat. The DHS bulletin also talks about how some extremists have been inspired by attacks recently, including that shooting at the LGBTQ plus bar in Colorado Springs.
Florida is no stranger to LGBTQ gun violence as Pulse shocked the entire world. In South Florida this year, we have seen hate speech attacks in many ways, most notably Fort Lauderdale's Sunshine Cathedral, with deranged posters against the LGBTQ plus community. Nationally, we yet again see gun violence at Colorado's LGBTQ plus Club Q, leaving 5 people dead and 17 hospitalized. On the eve of World AIDS Day, a new terrorism advisory bulletin was issued by the Department of Homeland Security, raising concerns about potential threats to the LGBTQ, Jewish, and migrant communities from violent extremists inside the United States. Domestic terrorism. Queer News Tonight has been following this story for a number of days leading up to this new DHS warning. Early this week, we received pictures from graffiti sprayed in locations of both Wilton Manors and Fort Lauderdale. The images were signs that spray painted, quote, "Kill fags daily," end quote. We have not yet been able to independently verify the incidents. Also earlier in the week, the DHS domestic terrorism warning, Fort Lauderdale Police Department contacted Sunshine Cathedral about their concerns about elevated threats. Last night, Sunshine Cathedral senior minister did the first of a 4-part Advent Christmas program called Drag Queen Bible Story Hour. The program has senior minister Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins becoming the drag queen, Reverend Dr. Dragvina Scriptura, as she tells Bible stories. The Fort Lauderdale Police Department advised that because of unspecified concern, they were going to add police presence at the church for the Wednesday evening program. In related news, hours before that event, the DHS held a briefing and issued a warning on domestic terrorism against the LGBTQ community. A senior DHS official told reporters in the briefing on the bulletin that violent ideologies pose a, quote, persistent and lethal threat, end quote. Intelligence officials across the federal government have consistently highlighted the growing threat of American extremists in recent years, while explaining that foreign threats such as the Islamic State terrorist group and Al-Qaeda are no longer as persistent as they once were. The bulletin said some extremists have been inspired by recent attacks, including the shooting at the LGBTQ bar in Colorado Springs. Asked about 2022 growing hate speech about many of these threat communities, including the likes of Kanye West, contributed to increased threats to Jewish people. A senior DHS official said, quote, any high-profile official or celebrity trafficking in conspiracy theories only serves to ignite violence among extremists, end quote. Queer News Tonight will continue to follow the breaking and evolving story here. Anyone surprised about DHS's notice about?
I'm not, and I'm really happy that they've jumped the gun and told people this, because it's scary times right now. Look, I have friends that have decided to get a gun. Okay, and these are people that would have never ever thought about doing such a thing, and I think that's a bad idea. But that's a whole other show. Okay. Also, we have a friend of mine and a friend of one of the production as well, Vols Allen, that she was performing at Lips, and then she was also performing at George's Alibi a day ago, and there was a gentleman wielding a gun out in the parking lot. Right? He was not caught. There was also another guy that was doing the same thing in front of Hunter's last night. You know, so I mean, things are. They're beefing up security, you know, which they need to do. And, you know, a lot of our entertainers are fearful, as they should be.
Yeah. It is, I'm happy that Jets is taking it seriously, not just warning us, but my guess would be when they put out something like that, then look, it's getting notified, they get put on notice. They have to now provide resources to protect us, right? Because there was a time in America where they would not protect us at all, right? And so the threat is real, and it's being taken seriously for a change.
You know, Victor, I'm curious, the executive director at Pride Lines, when you hear DHS's notice or Fort Lauderdale Police Department's police protection at Sunshine Cathedral last night for their event, it must wash over you of, I think about Pride Lines.
So sadly, we're living in a time where my leadership team and I are constantly having conversations around safety for our clients coming to our center, for our clients and our staff at our centers, and exploring ways to ensure that should this trickle its way down to our front door and in our space, we have systems in place to protect our people as best as possible. And the sad reality is that as an organization whose doors are open to anyone, right, as a community organization, we don't know who that person is going to be, or if, God forbid it, that ever happens. But we let everyone in, believing that they're coming to us for services, and it's almost like welcoming hate into the space.
Yeah. So it sounds like we all agree that we think that the threat has real potential. DHS's announcement
but do we feel safe?
But
do we feel safe? No, I don't feel safe.
No. Considering it's World AIDS Day, like looking at if we look at the history, right, that is if anti-gay, anti-trans violence, anti-black violence went up with HIV/AIDS, right, like that is as people began to blame certain communities for the disease, and they found, you know, targets. Last year was this year, actually 2022, has been the highest anti-LGBTQ legislation, you know, introduced in a number of state legislatures. That rhetoric matters, right? And then violence goes, you know, it comes along with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
you talked about Kanye West, but really, what these politicians are putting out and putting into legislation is a lot worse than a tweet by some rapper.
I think that's what DHS was secretly saying. If you're expressing publicly, whether you're a celebrity or politician. That's the issue. We at Queer News Tonight are going to follow this story. It's breaking news, but we're going to follow it closely. As we told you, we are in an outdoor venue at the new rooftop inauguration of Care Resource. The top, because everybody's working on their hair. Wow. Wow. And we're here at Resource World AIDS Day. And this, I'm sorry, did you say we're gay?
I mean, we're gay.
Yeah,
What do you
right, exactly. And we're really thrilled to be here and help promote Care Resource Mission and the World AIDS Day story. And we have a guest with us, Dr. Cheryl Zagas. Did I pronounce it? Zayas, thank you. Is the medical director. I haven't met you before here at Care Resource. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. And we want to make sure we told you we're live and outdoors.
Outdoors. Anything can happen.
You see my goosebumps? Goosebumps in Miami.
And we're testing to make sure that we've got good
It's like
sound.
75
Go
degrees
ahead.
out. It's like
Yes, we're good now. Thank you. Sorry about that, Dr. Zayas.
Thank you so much for coming.
We're thrilled to be here. Tell us a little bit about this moment for Care Resource and World AIDS Day and inaugurating this rooftop venue.
We are just so proud to have this space. You know, Care Resource has been working on the HIV epidemic for 40 years, since 1983 when it was the Health Choice Network. And Health Crisis Network. And, you know, we've come a long way. And here we are. This is a beautifully new renovated building. And on World AIDS Day, we're able to have, you know, everybody come here and continue to raise awareness, which is really what Care Resource has always been about, ending the epidemic. And we now have so many tools to truly do it. And I'm pumped. Honestly, with everything that we have ready to go, and there's so many tools in our toolbox now. We can really do it.
We're going to do a story later in the show tonight about Care Resource and all of the medical services that are provided. We're going to include an interview, some comments in an interview that we had with Dr. Anthony Fauci, and him talking about the importance of organizations like Care Resource and local delivery. Tell us a little bit about the HIV and AIDS services that Care Resource provides.
So we truly try to be a patient-centered medical home. We have so many different services. We have medical, we have dental, we have case management, we have behavioral health. We truly try to, be somewhere where everything can be taken care of that might be needed. As far as the 4 pillars of ending the epidemic, we do test and treat program where we provide free testing. The moment that someone is identified, we treat them the same day. We have prevention services such as PrEP, all different sorts of PrEP, any way that works for you. We have 1 pill once a day regimens for prevention. We have injectable prevention options, and the technology just keeps moving forward. We also have the syringe exchange program in order to reach out to the community, and we also have programs specifically to go reach out to our people of transgender experience, because as we know, they are disproportionately affected.
We're going to report on that tonight. My last question to you is something that Dr. Fauci reminded me on in the interview. We have the commitment, the worldwide commitment, but we have the U.S. commitment to have no new infections by 2030. And he said in the interview leading up to World AIDS Day that we're already behind. It's 2022 and we're behind in terms of where we want to be to reach that goal. As the medical director of Care Resource, what do you think about the goal of 2030 and tell us about
the way that social media goes? It's really about getting the word out there, making sure that people understand that they are at risk and that there are options for them. And there's the way that things go now. Everybody's in their echo chambers. If we could reach out to the people and break through those barriers and really, get to everybody who's at risk, I think it's absolutely possible. We can still make that goal.
There's our hope. It's possible by 2030. Dr. Cheryl Zayas, congratulations. We are thrilled to be here for your World AIDS Day event. And we remind you that you're going to get to watch every minute of this celebration inaugurating this beautiful 7th floor rooftop venue. And by the way, it's dark now and we're outdoors, but there's a beautiful view of downtown Miami and Miami Beach. And Dr. Zayas, thank you for being with us at Queer News tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor, for being with us. And you look great in red.
Nice to see you again.
We queer up gay culture. World AIDS Day started in 1988 and remembered December 1st, 2022. World AIDS Day was first designated in August 1988 by James W. Bunn and Thomas Netter to get some semblance of control over the pandemic that had claimed the lives of so many people. James W. Bunn and Thomas Netter were public information officers for the AIDS Global Program of the World Organization. They conveyed the idea for the observation of this day to the director of the AIDS Global Program, Dr. Jonathan Mann, who approved it for December 1st. Since the 1990s, research and medical practices have made significant improvements in the care of people living with HIV. In 1988, when their inaugural World AIDS Day was observed, it was estimated that between 90,000 and 150,000 persons were positive with HIV, the virus that could lead to AIDS. Up until 1996, WHO coordinated World AIDS Day, creating the annual themes and events. After that, UNAIDS, the Joint United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS, took over these duties to raise AIDS awareness and integrate AIDS information on a worldwide scale. UNAIDS established the World AIDS Campaign, WAC, in 1997. Globally, there are an estimated 38 million people who have HIV. Despite the virus only being identified in 1984, more than 35 million people have died of HIV or AIDS-related illnesses, making it one of the most destructive pandemics in history. And that's what, those are the folks that we know of also, because think about it, there's AIDS-related illnesses, like I stated in the story, that if someone passed away, it wouldn't go under that umbrella. But, a lot of the medication that people living with HIV and AIDS are on, they have side effects. There is Brett's lymphoma. Okay, if you have HIV, you are 30 times more prone to get that type of cancer. Isn't that crazy? 30 times. But again, just like the story has said, we have really just gone leaps and bounds from where we were back in the 80s.
If I can ask everybody a question that is so central for me, that has led up to World AIDS Day and thinking about World AIDS Day today. On Wilton Drive, I live my life on Wilton Drive. It seems to me that many, or most even, of especially the gay men that I encounter on Wilton Drive and live around me, right? HIV/AIDS, it's not something that anymore. I've heard so many times leading up to Smart Ride and over the last couple of weeks, when I talk about all of the stuff that we've been doing for raising awareness on HIV/AIDS, the general reaction is, why? Think about that in terms of visibility.
I would say that I would edit what you said slightly. I would say that they do think about it, because we know that people are getting tested and they're making sure that they can get on PrEP. But I don't think that they fear it. I don't think the same fear exists
of dying.
Exactly, because you can live such a healthy life now with HIV, and so many young people have grown up knowing that there are ways to treat and to live that way. So I don't think fear is.
Also, like you pick PrEP, right? Like for women, if you have unsafe sex and there's a morning after pill. Well, there's something similar also, right? That is PEP. And so then you can take post-exposure prophylaxis. And so then you would take a pill for a couple of weeks.
That's true. My concern going along with what you said is that, and I speak to patients, especially young people, all the time, without that fear, there is a real difference between being HIV positive and HIV negative. And yes, the medication has come a long way, but like Faye just read, if you have HIV, you have a 30% higher chance of getting certain cancers.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not the same. And I'm thrilled because I was around in those days in the 80s when we had nothing. And to work in healthcare and like not be able to help someone is devastating.
Mhm.
I'm thrilled to where we're at, but I'm always emphasizing to people, it's not having HIV is better. You know, if you can get on PrEP, there's so many ways to get on PrEP now. You can get an injection once a month.
Right.
If you can avoid it, one less thing that you have to worry about. We don't know what happens to the human body when you're on medication for 40 years.
Yeah.
If you're 20 getting HIV now, I don't know what's going to happen to you when you're 60.
You're right.
You've been taking powerful medications for 50 years.
Absolutely.
Tried it. Get tested. You need to be treated, get treated.
Know your status.
Know your
Know your
status.
status. That right
please.
there.
You know?
Well, on that note, let's clear up LGBTQ plus civil rights. A record 120 cities get perfect HRC city score, meaning hope for the future. A record 120 cities have earned a perfect 100 score on this year's Human Rights Campaign Municipal Equality Index, which rates cities on anti-discrimination laws, benefits for public employees, and other factors that contribute to a positive climate for LGBTQ plus people. As per the HRC press release, that number is up from 110 in 2021 and just 11 in its inaugural year, 2012. Quote, illustrating the striking advancements municipalities have made despite some being in states that have seen increased extremist-led anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric and legislation, end quote. The HRC Foundation released the index in partnership with the Equality Federation Institute. A perfect HRC score for a city also means the availability of better health care and medical treatment in the local community for HIV, AIDS prevention, and treatment for the LGBTQ plus community. Joe D. Winterhoff, HRC Senior Vice President of Policy and Political Affairs, said, quote, LGBTQ plus people everywhere deserve to live in welcoming places that are focused on building equality for all. Fran Hutchins, Executive Director of Equality Federation Institute, said, quote, at a time when anti-LGBTQ plus opponents are using the rights of transgender youth as a political wedge issue, it can be disheartening to be a queer or trans person in this country. But despite the increasing attacks we are seeing on transgender youth in state legislatures, the important work to advance protections for LGBTQ plus people continues at the local level, end quote. And that's a mouthful. Quite honestly, you know, I'm glad that we're doing this work on a local level, but we need advocacy across the board. We need advocacy at the national level. We need people fighting for us, not just in legislation, but actually trying to create systems or change systems that have been historically problematic, anti-queer, anti-black, and it's just a step, but we need to do more.
If I could say, in my position on that committee for the city, we do the MEI report from HRC. And the problem with this story when I read it is that when you get a 100, that doesn't include anything that affects our community. And everything that affects our community are what they call bonus points. And so when I read it, I went, well, that's nice that there's like 10 more, except nobody's over 100. Well, over 100 is housing for homelessness for LGBTQ youth, and medical services for LGBTQ youth, and mental health services for. And so my concern with putting out something like that, it gives this false impression that we're doing well. Right. We're not. Our push right now, thankfully, I live in Miami Beach, our push right now is to get all those bonus points, the things that are actually affecting our community, to make sure that the services are there. Yeah, everyone should have the opportunity to live well and fully, right? Mm-hmm. And we can't without those services. We really can't. We have to push harder. HRC, that's not enough. We need cities to have 120s.
Wow.
That's what we need cities.
I didn't even know that was even an option, but it's good to know what your cities rank around you anyway. I mean, you know, it's something that we have followed. Hollywood, you know, was 100, and a couple of years ago they were like at 69 or something like that. Right. You know, so I mean, so that just shows you where cities have started. Maybe 100 is not great, Paul, but I mean, at least they're moving in the right direction, right?
We are, but we can. clap until we've actually received what we
You're right.
deserve, right? We need more.
I agree with you, but I want to disagree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you because I agree on all of the observations, but it's interesting to me on my ear, and honestly, I don't want to argue over it, but you're in Miami Beach, and we're in communities that have 100 ratings. So Wilton Manors and Miami Beach, Hollywood joined the club in January of this year. It's a goal of Miami Beach and Wilton Manors to achieve getting those bonus points. In Montgomery, Alabama, or Lincoln, Nebraska, they're sitting at 55.
Right.
And so our challenge has to be, and the HRC's challenge is to put in front of Lincoln, Nebraska and Boise, Idaho to try to get to 90.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I think there's something, and I mean, I certainly agree that we need more on the state and certainly national level, but the local really matters. And so like when we go to vote for our, school boards and superintendents and councilmen and commissioners, these are really important positions. But also to play devil's advocate a little bit further, I think that there's something really powerful about kind of keeping cities accountable in other ways. That is, because there is something to be said about, like, the ACT UP, the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, which was incorporated in 1987, founded in 1980, just the year before World AIDS Day was first commemorated. One of my favorite kind of slogans from them is that we are all living with HIV/AIDS. That HIV/AIDS affects everyone. That we are all part of this story together. And to kind of think about how cities need to think about it that way too. That every decision that's made, whether it's unequal access to healthcare, to education, to public services, that this is a problem, a structural problem, and cities need to be held accountable, and the leaders actually of those cities need to be held accountable.
And HRC does that. Okay, so let me tell you a couple of rankings just because of where we're at. All right, Miami's 89, guys. Okay, Miami got 89. Fort Lauderdale got a perfect score of 100. Oakland Park got a perfect score of 100. Hollywood got 100. Cape Coral, that's not too far from here, 69. 69. And Miami Shores, 85, which is right down the street. Again, a lot of improvement needs to happen. And now that I know that there's bonus points, where's my bonus points, people?
In Wilton Manors, we're going to have to work on some of those bonus points. As we've told you, we are broadcasting from a rooftop event center here at Care Resource. This is the inaugural event here. We're at World AIDS Day, and we're going to take a moment to talk to this very handsome gentleman here to the left of me. This is anchored at Queer News Tonight many times. You are an institution in our community. And wait, I was going to define institution, but well, no, I won't define it. Of course, you know John Buckley from Kiowa. Good evening, and thank you for joining us at Queer News Tonight.
Good evening, ladies and gents.
You call me a lady. You're getting ready to lead the entertainment. We're going to watch a World AIDS Day celebration that is going to be respectful in its candlelight memorial, but there's also going to be some great entertainment. And, Paul's going to read and original poetry. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing tonight here at Care Resource.
So tonight we are doing an amazing tribute that's immersive in music, poetry, healing through the arts. The arts comes in many forms, and it's a beautiful production that has been imagined, designed, and basically just something that's never been seen before to commemorate, honor, and encourage those who are thriving and living, and remember those who we have lost.
Beautifully said. John, I can't let you, I know how busy you're getting ready for this performance. Tell us about World AIDS Day. We were talking about my observation that I feel like people are thinking it's not important anymore, and HIV and AIDS is not as important to us. What are your thoughts about World AIDS Day?
World AIDS Day to me is very important. It's a conversation that, as long as we haven't ended an epidemic, it's a conversation that we will always have to talk about, unfortunately. But on the positive side, it is not what it was. Growing up in the 80s and my first experience with HIV and AIDS was through my aunt. I lost an aunt at a very early age to AIDS due to, you know, her husband at the time. But nonetheless, that was like my first teachings of what HIV and AIDS was. And as I've grown, you know, because of my lifestyle choices, which obviously at the same time have nothing to do with AIDS because it doesn't discriminate. It goes to anyone, men, women, children, whoever. It has no particular person or community that it attacks. But
we're going to show every minute of the World AIDS Day commemoration this evening at Care Resource. You know the entire program. What's going to be your favorite moment? I'm going to sit in that audience and watch. Clue me in on what your favorite moment this evening is going to be.
I don't mean to spoil it, but of course, my favorite moment is going to be the tribute. It's very beautifully put together and planned, and it's something that we've never done before in our community, so I'm really excited and happy to see it come to life.
Yeah, excellent. John Buckley, we're thrilled that you could take a few minutes to sit down and help us do this special broadcast. We're out in the air.
It is a nice night.
Rain.
It's a beautiful night.
It's
it rained
pretty
earlier.
windy. Oh, I know it rained earlier. Yes, we moved our set. But John Buckley, good luck in the program. It's important, and thank you for joining us tonight at Core News
My
Tonight.
pleasure always. I love you guys. Thank you.
Love you, John.
Have a great night, John.
We're in for a powerful night, I think, here at Care Resource and World AIDS Day. Let's queer up entertainment. For World AIDS Day, it's important to remember the ribbon. If not sure how to honor World AIDS Day, Playville and Gilead have you covered with their production of the 3rd annual Remember the Ribbon, a tribute to World AIDS Day. It is organized to commemorate World AIDS Day and to honor those affected by HIV and AIDS. Taped live last month at Sony Hall in New York, Remember the Ribbon features storytellers, songs, tributes, and reflections on those affected by HIV. ABC Entertainment journalist and Plus Life Media co-founder Carl Schmidt serves as a host with appearances from Broadway luminaries such as Carolee Carmello and Anthony Harper, and then with mainstays of television and film like Judith Light, I love Judith Light, and Ariana DeBose. Brian DeCampione and Leonard Rodino co-directed the show with music by Broadway Sings. Remember the Ribbon streams on Playbill's website and YouTube page starting today through Saturday. Viewers just got to make a donation to GLAAD to watch. GLAAD, or the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, is an American non-governmental, that is an NGO, media monitoring organization. The event was held with the objective to spread awareness, fighting stigma, and pushing for 100% acceptance of people living with AIDS. With HIV, with a focus on the LGBTQ+ community. This is the 3rd annual Remember the Ribbon celebration by Playville. Such events are a huge contribution to the worldwide efforts of ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. Wow, what do you all think?
I think that this is outside of the actual medical consequences of HIV/AIDS on the LGBTQ community, and outside of the political issues that relate to discrimination and stigma. This is the 3rd most important thing that has come out of AIDS, HIV for the LGBTQ community, for the broad world. Entertainment in LGBT has really led the way. We're here at Care Resource, and you heard the doctor say Care Resource started in '83. In 1985, here, the White Party Miami began, and it's exactly like this. It's an entertainment platform designed to raise money. And really almost, I'll crawl out on that limb, LGBT America invented this mechanism from AIDS. And White Party Miami was designed to come together and party and have a good time and hear singers and music and all kinds of things. And it was replicated all over the world. And this is just another example of it. And one final thought to the entertainment fashion of the awareness of AIDS, HIV. I remember in the 90s, Broadway Cares was Sentinel. This is an evolution of that. in that the Broadway community was either gay or so gay friendly it was gay. And that's how we get the queer plus, really, as many people say. Broadway helped create that in our acronym, and I think that this is a lovely moment, and to benefit CAD, which educates, it's just a win-win.
During pandemic, Broadway Cares also had done something similar to like this, and it was just incredible. They had everybody from Broadway performing there, and so for this one, like we said, you know, all you have to do is just donate to GLAAD, and they'll give you a link, and you're able to see the whole streaming of it. And I think they filmed it last week or a couple of weeks ago, but it looks like it's going to be an incredible show.
You know what I think we don't talk about enough, and I think it's really important. In there, they talked about wanting 100% acceptance for people with HIV. In that, because of AIDS and because of this push for rights and for equality, that's filtered through. And nowadays, when we talk about equity and 100% acceptance and us being able to live wherever we want to live, love whoever we want to love, get married, all of those things stem from way back then when they pushing to go, you can't discriminate against people with HIV. And in a very interesting way, HIV's lifted everyone up. You know, and the work that's done around HIV, the community that's been built around HIV has lifted everyone up and brought in other communities and said, well, you know what? Well, we're going to, by the way, don't forget the Latino, by the way, don't forget that.
That's right.
And
we're bringing them with us.
In a strange way, that horrific thing called AIDS back in the 80s is now really bringing all of society to a better place.
Yeah,
we see each other differently.
That's
awesome
so true.
point.
It's also a powerful nod, if I can, just very, like, to think about the power of the arts in general. Like, today's a testament of that here at Care Resource. For being, so many of the protests were theatrical, were really powerful because they were so moving, you know, they went to your emotions, right? And we lost, of course, a generation of writers, of artists, of people who made such powerful and transformative art, and kind of make an homage to that, which is part of this this memory too.
And you know, isn't that a really super interesting observation of what we're doing here for this event for World AIDS Day, this rooftop venue at Care Resource? This is a rooftop venue that is a parking lot, but it was designed to, well, we want to park for clients during the day, and then at night we want to have a party. Isn't that so gay?
Miami, very Miami gay.
Miami gay. And we want to have a good time. And we want to have a good time even in a subject like AIDS and HIV. We must move on in a positive way, and entertainment allows us to do it. It's quite awesome. Congratulations, and we're thrilled to be here with Care Resource. All right, well, let's queer up health. World AIDS Day news as FDA plans to loosen restrictions on gay men donating blood. The Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, could soon loosen restriction on blood donations from gay and bisexual men. In 2015, men who had sex with men were banned from donating blood at all, a policy that began during the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s. In 2015, the FDA lifted the total ban, but said gay and bisexual men could only donate blood if they had not had sex for a full year. The time frame was shortened to 3 months amid blood shortages during the COVID pandemic. That decision was made based on a study to determine the effectiveness of individualized risk assessments, according to the Wall Street Journal. And according to an FDA official, the questions have not been finalized yet, but will likely seek to determine if someone has had any new sexual partners within 3 months of when they want to donate, and if they engaged in anal sex with those partners, as unprotected anal sex is the riskiest for HIV transmission. Those who did engage in anal sex with a new partner will be asked to wait 3 months to donate. For decades, LGBTQ activists have fought against restrictions barring men who have had sex with men from donating blood, arguing that the bans stem from discrimination and stigma rather than increased risk. It is time for the FDA to shake off the unfair approach toward gay men donating blood. It's big news.
Very big news.
It's a representation from my seat when I was in the 80s and active. And I was an active gay man. and in the 90s, the representation of the blood donation ban was a reflection of me in community. You can't give because you are this. And it's just a way, in my opinion, to discriminate and stigmatize.
Well, I mean, according to this, they want to ask people to not have sex for 3 months.
Yeah.
They don't ask anyone else to do that.
No, nobody.
It's still discrimination.
Completely.
The blood is tested.
Right. Yep.
And if you test positive for a range of different things, the blood is automatically discarded.
If it's iron deficient, they get rid of it.
That's what I mean. So there's really no need to ask anyone those questions about their sexual activities. It's not a requirement in order to donate blood. The blood, there's a blood shortage oftentimes, and they still don't allow us to give blood.
Yeah.
This is still discrimination. They have to do a lot better than that.
And those questions are awful. I mean, I don't know when's the last time you boys have gone to donate blood, but like twice a year, I take a caravan of crazy lesbians and we go to the red bus and we all give blood, right? And it's like you read these questions and it's like, are you serious? Like, when is the last time you've done drugs? When is the last time you used a needle? When is the last time you had anal sex? And it's like, all the questions are directed to you boys.
Right.
All of them. And we're in 2022.
Yeah, that's discrimination.
It is.
It is, 100%.
It for sure is.
Yeah.
Well, we'll watch what the FDA's decision is, but the smart money is saying that they are going to lift the blood donation ban. Well, as you know, we are at the World AIDS Day commemoration here at Care Resource. We're in beautiful downtown Miami. I'm looking at Biscayne Bay as we do. And we have a number of guests that are here attending tonight. And Lorenzo Robertson with us. We've met a number of times. The men's collective you represent, I always mispronounce, so I'm going to allow you to do it.
It's the Ujima Men's Collective.
Ujima. And I don't know why I have trouble with that. You're here for the World AIDS Day event. Tell us a little bit about the collective and what you do.
Yeah, primarily we have 5 tenets that we work under, which is leadership, advocacy, spirituality, relationships, health and wellness, how all those relate to being Black, same-gender loving men. But when we do all of our work is designed for Black, same-gender loving men and those that love and support them.
Yeah, excellent. And your participation coming to commemorate World AIDS Day, the number of events going on here in South Florida. Today, very important to Black men in our LGBTQ community. Why participate in an event like this at Care Resource?
Well, really to be a part of the community, but also to show that we as Black, same-gender loving men, we are still being impacted by HIV, and that we need to be in these environments and these spaces to let people know that we are concerned about our health. And because if you're not here, then the assumption is that you're not concerned about how you are presented and represented in the world. So I want to be here to make sure that people do know that I'm concerned about Black, same-gender loving men and the health of our community.
We are going to do some medical reporting tonight in one of our stories, and as I was reading it, and I hope to get this correct, but that Black gay men are a 1 in 2 likelihood of HIV transmission. Is that a number you've heard?
Yeah, that is still accurate. I mean, that was what the CDC put out a number of years ago, and it's something that is horrendous in terms of we have the
Just
same
shocking.
information,
Shocking.
same prevention education is out there, but for whatever reason, it's impacting our community in a very different manner.
Yeah. Well, we're happy you took a few minutes. We're getting ready. We remind our audience we're going to show you every minute of the event that is getting ready to happen here at Care Resource. And Lorenzo Robertson, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lorenzo.
Thank you, guys.
Love Lorenzo. Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Well, we're not in Fort Lauderdale right now, but you know what I mean. Supporting that partnership, we have made our permanent set on campus at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
I'm Dean Trantalis, the mayor of the city of Fort Lauderdale. They say the gayest place on planet Earth, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Hello, Dean. All right, we continue Queer News Tonight by queering up health. HIV myths busted. Here's what you need to know about your prevention options. Want to be part of ending new HIV transmissions this decade? Here's what you need to know. Over the last decade, the fight against HIV has been transformed by medical breakthroughs. Robbie Curry, lead commissioner of London's HIV prevention program branded Do It London, says, quote, England is on track to end new transmissions by 2030. With the HIV prevention medication PrEP, alongside more traditional methods of prevention, proving to accelerate the downtrend in new HIV infections in recent years. He continues with, people aren't aware of how much treatment and prevention options have advanced. And one of the biggest misconceptions is that someone with HIV can still pass it on if they are on effective treatment, which we know isn't true, end quote. Another misconception is that people on HIV treatment have drastically different health outcomes in later life. Curie says, quote, if you have HIV and receive treatment early, there is no reason why you won't have a normal lifespan, end quote. Something else people aren't always aware of is that if you have unprotected sex and you aren't on PrEP, there is a medication that can be taken for 72 hours afterward. The good news is that we now have the tools to eliminate HIV because there are prevention and treatment medications that are effective. And just like we were saying about like if you had unprotected sex and you know that person is HIV positive, you can go and get PEP and then go in 72 hours you have to go take that, and you take a pill for 28 days and it's eradicated. Thank goodness. These are all these incredible things that we didn't have in the 80s, that didn't exist in the 80s. And we hope that
you don't have to know that the person is. Yeah. Protect sex with somebody you met in the club. Exactly. You can show up in the morning and go, hey.
You know what? Yeah. Let me protect myself. Yeah.
Right. Now, this goes to health equity, though, right? And why, there's a question mark. Will we reach there in 2030? It really comes down to equity. It comes to rural areas where there are lots of people having unprotected sex. There's not a healthcare center nearby. There's not PrEP nearby. There's not this type of education. So we have to do better. Right now, at QHCs, the federal government has started new positions called community healthcare workers, and their role is just to go out to where the patients are and not wait for patients to have to find us. And that's part of getting to 2030 with no more transition. But we're going to have to kind of bring healthcare to people as well, because the information is great, but not if people can access it. The medication is great, but not if you can.
From my seat, I make one observation to the story that I think is valuable from news and journalism. One of the things that I know from my seat, that if you don't say it 42 times, if you said it 39 times, they didn't hear you.
Right.
And in HIV and the myths in HIV, it's a situation where our health providers, our advocates, our 501c3 nonprofits, our politicians, our media must say over and over and over and over and over to try to reach this goal of 2030 with no new transmissions. And if we don't do that, we likely can't be successful, because people walk through their lives in a certain way of not paying attention. And you have to tell them over and over again. And HIV is one area that they must pay attention to. So the obligation is on us to educate better.
Think about the power of science more broadly. Like, I mean, when the power of science to debunk these myths, like where we were at the 80s with, the myths associated with HIV/AIDS, like, the fear that it was airborne, or that that it could toilet seats, and like all these fears that were not really of course we're never looking to science, but looking to homophobia, to racism, to that's where they got their fuel. And we learned this again with with COVID, with all the early myths that sometimes were associated with xenophobia and all sorts of things that kind of come along with these.
And we have to take note from other countries that are doing things that we aren't. Like I can't remember if it's the Netherlands or Norway or somewhere else, but someone that is when you go get your blood tested for just normal thing to go see your primary physician, right? AIDS is not one of the things that they test for. In other countries, it's become just one of the 8 things that's tested, so people know earlier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now let's queer up health. HIV/AIDS is not over. Here's how it dramatically affects the LGBTQ plus community. HIV continues to be a major public health crisis both in the United States and around the world. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, there are 1.2 million people living with HIV in the United States, and approximately 40,000 people were diagnosed with HIV in 2015 alone. While the annual number of new diagnoses fell by 19% between 2005 and 2014, progress has been uneven. If current diagnosis rates continue, 1 in 6 gay and bisexual men will be diagnosed with HIV in their lifetime. For Latino and Black men who have sex with men, the rates are 1 in 4 and 1 in 2, respectively. People of trans experience have also been hit especially hard by the epidemic, despite comprising a similarly small percentage of the U.S. population in most states. It is perfectly legal to discriminate against someone on the basis of their sexual orientation or their gender identity in one or more aspects of their life, including employment, housing, and public accommodations. This often results in LGBTQ plus people engaging in behaviors that facilitate the spread of HIV. Many transgender people are left with few other options but to engage in underground economies such as survival sex work in order to meet their most basic needs. Anti-LGBTQ bias discourages many from getting tested or treated for HIV for fear of harassment. Following decades of inadequate funding and poor public health, infrastructure is going to leave a lasting and devastating impact on HIV/AIDS diagnosed LGBTQ plus people, LGBTQ plus community. Like we said, we're live, and the plane in the background is throwing me off. My apologies.
Our life here at Care Resource. And let's clear up politics. Dr. Anthony Fauci exclusive LGBTQ interview with Queer News Tonight. World AIDS Day is a chance for the LGBTQ plus community to stop and reflect on where we are, likely the most important queer news story in history. In the summer of 1981, a strange new virus was first detected. By 1988, the first World AIDS Day was met with the growing issues facing the LGBTQ plus community, especially gay men. Though today, more than 750,000 Americans have died of AIDS, and more than 25 million worldwide. In that first summer, there was only one voice, really, above all others that understood the crisis of the LGBTQ plus community to come, Dr. Anthony Fauci. He read the internal CDC report the first time of the strange connection of 5 deaths in Los Angeles with one certain connection. They were all gay men. The next month, the CDC internal alarm was set off by Fauci with the same connection in New York, but this time it was 25 deaths. Since, Dr. Fauci has been at the forefront of the epidemic of HIV and AIDS. He has led infectious disease health in the U.S. government for more than 40 years. Listen to this, 6 presidents. Al sat down with Dr. Fauci in an exclusive interview, and the only LGBTQ plus television interview he did in connection with AIDS Day and his retirement this month from public service. Let's watch some of the highlights of this historic 30-minute interview for the LGBTQ plus community and Queer News Tonight. Fauci discussed World AIDS Day and how important the LGBTQ plus community, with the late and the entire healthcare community did better to address AIDS early in the epidemic.
I've developed a very special relationship over the years with the LGBT community, dating back from what was a confrontational relationship back in the days of Larry Kramer and ACT UP, which one of the most important things that I've ever done in my career was to listen to the community, because what they were saying about the fact that the biomedical research community did not adequately include them in the design of clinical trials that involved the LGBTQ community. The regulatory approach was too rigid for a disease of the nature of HIV/AIDS. And I listened to them when they were being very confrontative, appropriately iconoclastic, appropriately disruptive because I said to myself, if I were in their shoes, what would I be doing? And I'd be doing exactly what they were doing. So I developed a great deal of respect. And with that respect came a degree of cooperation, collaboration, which now turned into friendship. And some of the best friends, and respect. But some of the best friends that I have now are people who are among the original confrontative LGBT community that was the old ACT UP people. Larry Kramer became my very close friend. People like Peter Staley and Greg Gonzalez and David Barr and Mark Harrington and others have all over the years evolved into respected colleagues and friends. So it's really been a very gratifying decades of experience with the LGBT community.
So powerful to hear him talk about all these activists and what they meant to him. To think about the word that he uses referring to the LGBTQ plus community is cohort, such a scientific embracement to the very last. His reference to the unprecedented success of the LGBTQ plus community as a cohort was completely clear in his final words of love and respect for the community. Today, as the world and the LGBTQ plus community remembers those lost, those that are living with HIV, and most important of all, the fact that a cure is now on the horizon. We salute the world's most important voice for the LGBTQ plus community on AIDS and HIV, our friend, our hero, Dr. Anthony Fauci.
And part of that tribute, Dr. Fauci respects our LGBTQ community right back, and I believe production is going to show you some of those comments of what he said.
Yeah, I mean, it's an extraordinary community in how you pull together and caring about each other in a way that I think is unprecedented of any cohort of people. And you have come through, we could not have gotten done what we've gotten done with HIV AIDS had it not been for the spirit, the camaraderie, and the beauty, actually, of the LGBT community. And I've certainly had the privilege of experiencing that for the last 41 and a half years now, associated with my involvement with HIV AIDS. And I just would in many respects congratulate you all for what you've done and keep up. You're a model for many of other people throughout the country who are not in your community.
That's powerful. That's such a great interview. What was that like, Al?
It was exciting. I knew the history of what I was, I knew I was in this historic moment. Today is World AIDS Day. He held on specifically because of today. He finished the Trump world, and Biden asked to stay and for his work there, but this was the deadline for him that he did in the sand and stayed. He's getting ready to retire now after World AIDS Day. The other thing that was really important in the moment is his respect to do this. This interview was 5 months in the works. Wow. 5 months. And the issue of doing anything but major media was a real difficult opportunity. It is the only television LGBT interview that he has done before his retirement. The NIH, you go through the White House, and they did very strict protocols. It's going to be 10 minutes, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And as we went, of course, we tried to push and push and push. And Fauci, in his respect for LGBTQ community, and so many, this and so many other things, went farther and farther, and they were bringing to his attention, he was way over time, and he ended up doing 30 minutes. And it was a respect for LGBT, his outgoing of a retirement to say, wait, which that incredible quote and statement that LGBT is the most spectacular cohort in his medical history. It was just really.
If we would only stick together in more aspects of our community, right?
I think it
My
talks
goodness.
to what Paul had said about
Right?
the importance of community.
Yes.
Did
Yeah.
you notice at the end, he also asked us to show others, be a model, and continue to help others.
Yeah.
And I know that there have been times in Miami-Dade County where like immigration called one day and they had a whole bunch of LGBTQ people sitting around the table. They were like, we need to get this done and we can't get it done. And you guys seem to be able to.
You're able to do it.
Yeah, they're like, what should we do? What should we say?
They should embrace the entertainment model that we've done.
We'll party on a rooftop, and that's how you go.
One of the things I have to tell you, we're going to show this complete contextual interview of the 30 minutes. But one of the things that's really incredible to come, which we haven't whispered even one word, my final question to him was, what now after 50 years at my age, what keeps you up at night? And his answer is breathtaking. There is something that keeps him up at night and he worries about and he continues to worry about.
Ooh, I can't
and
wait.
it's one of the things that he is going to focus on very specifically in his retirement of his work.
Wow. I'm embarrassed that I didn't know who he was until pandemic. I'm really embarrassed to say that. And once I started researching, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like 40 years of stuff. Holy crap, incredible.
For HIV/AIDS, this is George Washington.
Yeah.
That's how important he is.
Just, maybe to help himself work in healthcare, it wasn't fighting the virus was one thing, which was incredible, right? Tons of people all over the world could figure out how to fight the virus, but it was also fighting government systems. It was also like, he was literally fighting against the president and Congress because they weren't going to give us funding. And he was like, no, this is important. We needed someone like him. We needed him to kind of stand out there in front, take all the hits until he got the federal funding that we needed to yell and scream and for them to call. I mean, they tried to destroy him many times.
No wonder he was like, whatever over Trump. Whatever. Whatever. You don't know what I've been through.
And by the way, in the interview, we talk about Trump and we talk about DeSantis and that response. But to Paul's point, which I think is a bullseye, we will never, ever be able to quantify what I'm getting ready to say. His commitment to do exactly what Paul said was the creation architect of PEPFAR. And PEPFAR literally was the model that was adopted of what the U.S. was going to do for worldwide AIDS, not just in America, but worldwide. And everyone on this planet in this field says that program, in essence, has saved more than 20 million lives. Wow. Dr. Anthony Fauci is the architect of that because he fought for that money and the development of that program.
And people like Larry Kramer helped him, right? And he said, well, what would I do? Yeah, I'd be laying on the ground in front of the, until I got what I needed. But he didn't have to his character, right? Other people, that they can easily put their heads in this. Yeah. The people are dying. He didn't do that.
We echo Julio's comments. Thank you, Dr. Fauci. All right, well, next up, let's queer up health. Care Resource and World AIDS Day Miami, Healing Through Arts. Now, we've been telling you all evening, we're broadcasting live here on this new rooftop venue in downtown Miami at Care Resource. It's one of the most important HIV, AIDS, and healthcare providers for LGBTQ community here in South Florida. And this evening, Care Resource is hosting a tribute to World AIDS Day with the theme, Healing Through Arts, on the rooftop of their Midtown Miami Health Center. We are broadcasting on location at this event in partnership with Care Resource because of World AIDS Day and here in Miami. This is the first ever event held on the rooftop space as part of the services offered at the newly remodeled building. Starting today, Care Resource began, for example, offering pediatric medical services. These services included child care, pediatric hearing, vision care, dental care, immunization, routine health screenings, behavioral health, adolescent care. Douglas Steele, the Director of Medical Care Services here at Care Resource, said, quote, "It is important for children to be treated by pediatricians in an environment that is equipped to meet the needs of children. Your family's pediatrician is an important partner of keeping your child happy and healthy from the birth through adolescence. With offices, end quote. With offices conveniently located throughout South Florida in both Miami-Dade and Broward County, this is where all of our families live and work and play. Care Resources Pediatric Services are right here. In recognition, as another example of their programming, last month was Transgender Awareness Month, and the center offers new transgender medical patients interested in gender-affirming hormone therapy a voucher code for a non-cost basic exam, initial labs to prepare for their hormone therapy, and follow-up visits to receive lab results. As we honor World AIDS Day, we also want to point out the many HIV/AIDS resources and services available here. The Director of Medical Services has already been on the show tonight telling us the specifics of what they do, but Care Resource offers testing, PrEP services, linkage to care for those recently diagnosed with HIV, as well as direct client services for HIV-positive individuals, such as access to meals through their Food for Life network, rental assistance, and other housing and transportation services. Care Resource is a healthcare safety net for 1.5 million low-income, uninsured, and underinsured individuals in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. 53% of all Care Resource clients are uninsured. And in 2021, they provided more than $6 million worth of charity care and $4.8 million in community benefits. That's why we are proud to partner tonight with Care Resource for tonight's World AIDS Day event of Healing Through Art. World AIDS Day, Miami.
I'm over the moon for the services that they are offering to the transgender community. I mean, it is, there's not that many places where our transgender brothers and sisters can just go with a voucher and get their basic needs taken care of. It sounds very simple for us to just walk in and just, hey, find out if I'm okay or not. No, it's not that way when it comes to the transgender community. So I love this.
I just want to say real quickly, I know everyone else has comments, but real quickly, Jonathan Welsh, the communications director here, walked me through last week, but the first time I'd been in this new building and seeing this venue space on the rooftop. And I went through the different departments. The pediatric division had not opened yet. It opened today. Yeah. I walked through Food for Life, which is like a food bank, but specifically connected to healthcare needs of a food bank, which I thought was just brilliant. But to your point about transgender healthcare, I walked through that department and Jonathan introduced me to many people in that program. And one of the things that I ask about in terms of the advocacy for services like hormone therapy, well, that's a political hot button in America and in this state, because we're watching in Tallahassee the faux hearings of healthcare denial in terms of hormone services. Not a Care Resource. Not a Care Resource. So,
wow.
Yeah. It's interesting. The point that I wanted to just point out is that 53% of the people are uninsured, and so finances tend to be a barrier to health for everyone. Yeah. Even people with great jobs and great health insurance, they worry about their copay and their deductible, and they worry about can they afford the medication. The FQHC model in America is there for that. It's the safety net in America that you go to an FQHC, you get treated regardless of your ability to pay. There's not an excuse to not get treated. Don't sit home sick. Come in. The nice thing about a facility like this is that they offer everything in one building. And so on different floors, there's X-ray. On different floors, there's MRI.
Dental, everything in one building.
You no longer have to run around Miami-Dade County to get what you need. If you're coming with 3 children, you don't have time to run on buses to 3 different facilities. You can get everything in one building.
Well, we are here to celebrate World AIDS Day, and we specifically decided from Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television, Queer News Tonight, to be able to do this and partner with Care Resource for this celebration. The event, you're going to see every minute of it, is going to be starting in just a few minutes, so we better end this show. So, Paul, I'm going to
Okay,
turn
so
our clothes.
that is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and in sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat and Victor Diaz-Herman and Dr. Julio Capo Jr. and Paul Thomas. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. Now that we have concluded this evening's headlines, please make sure you stay tuned as we present this special broadcast of the 2022 Care Resource and World AIDS Day Miami Healing Through Arts event. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus